Hello, everyone. Welcome to a show that we have now officially named after doing it for like a month and a half, 2 months. We didn't have a name for it. We now have a name for it. It's official. Green on the Greens. Myself and Cody Williams. We are here to talk about this week's Zurich Classic of New Orleans. Cody, how you doing? Do you like the name? Do you think it's fitting?
Absolutely. I mean, we might want to step up our pit game a little bit, so we're actually making people green on the greens. But other than that, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it was a rough week last week, especially for myself. I had the old classic reverse sweep. Wasn't good. Back to back, not great weeks for me, but that's all right. We're going to turn it around here. It was the RBC Heritage. Jordan Spieth takes out Patrick Cantlay in a playoff. I know both myself and you, Cody, both had busy weekends. I had friends who were visiting out town, so we didn't watch as much as we watch most weeks. But I was looking into the stats afterwards. I was looking at them today. I don't know if you saw this or not, Cody, but Jordan Spieth still lost strokes on the greens with his putting and still managed to win.
Yeah, I did see that. I also saw a stat from Justin Ray, who, always dropping nuggets on Twitter and stuff like that.
He's the best.
He said that was the worst strokes gained putting round of a winner since 2009.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was he actually dropped the name. It was Sean O'Hare at Quail Hollow in 2009.
Wow. Yeah, I was looking at that and I had that thought. I didn't go look at Justin Ray's timeline, but I was wondered like when was the last time someone won with that bad of a performance with his putter. So yeah, minus 0.63 strokes gained putting. But he gained over a stroke on the field in all three other areas around the greens, approach, and off the tee. So I get if he can dial in the putter, he might be back. But I guess that's kind of the question because his ball striking has been good lately. But you're not going to continue to win tournaments losing over half a stroke putting on the field.
Yeah, and I also worry about him when you get on a different course other than Harbour Town because like we were talking about last week, it's so much about accuracy and not so much about distance. When you get into the heart of
Right.
the PGA Tour schedule when you're playing on longer courses, um, like he was, I think, top five in the field in strokes gained off the tee, but that was just because he was like he's not a long hitter, and so distance wasn't really factoring into that. When it comes into a course where distance is a factor, then I think that's going to take down those other metrics, and the putting metrics are going to be a lot more important.
Yeah, that was the same with his other best finish this year was at Pebble Beach, which is also a course that you don't need to have length off. And like you said, when we get kind of into the heart of the PGA Tour season, it's back to back to back to back weeks of courses where where you need some distance. Peter Dewey chimed in the chat. Love you addressing the Spieth his back allegations because he is big Jordan Spieth fan. Peter Dewey, he's on him at the Masters, didn't come through for him, but a little redemption last week with Spieth. But yeah, I mean, I didn't call it. I didn't think Spieth was going to have a good round, but these are the kinds of courses that Spieth can kind of attack a little bit more, or the ones that are being short off the tee is not going to hurt you, and accuracies going to gain you a lot of strokes. So shout out Jordan Spieth. He might be back, but we'll see. I think I need to see a little bit more from him before I'm ready to say that, especially on the greens. With his putter. But let's review our picks because we are going to be honest and upfront when we have bad weeks, and this was especially for myself a terrible week. A guy who I picked to miss the cut, Tyrrell Hatton, finished T26. Kevin Kisner, who I picked to finish top 20, missed the cut with a 3 over in the second round. Daniel Berger, I picked top 10. He finished T21. He was the closest I got out of everyone. Matt Fitzpatrick, top 5, miscut. I might be out on the Fitzpatrick train. I don't know what's going on with him. And then I picked Colin Morikawa to win, and he finished T26. So, wrong, all 5. Big X's on the board for me. Cody, you got one right. Missed the cut chasing Kokrak. He did not. He finished T35, but you got Harold Varner to finish in the top 20. In hindsight, you probably wish that you were a little bit more aggressive with that pick because he did finish top. He finished tied for third. But then you were on Fitzpatrick top 10 as well. That was a miscut. Corey Connors just missed out on a top 5 for you with a T12. So in hindsight, obviously hindsight's 2020. You flipped Corey Connors and Harold Varner, and you had a very good week. And then you were on Dustin Johnson to win, and he also missed the cut. Not a lot of outside of Spieth and Cantlay, bad performances from some big names this week. Matt Fitzpatrick missed the cut. Dustin Johnson missed the cut. Yeah, a little bit of a weird event.
Yeah, you told me I was a coward last week for not having Cameron Smith to miss the cut, and I should have done it because he missed the cut. Like, it's
That's
another big
true.
name that
Yep.
didn't. Yeah, and so, I just got to follow my gut, and when I have a bold call, really go for it. And because when we were doing our picks, I actually had HV3 as a top 10. I was like, that's just a little too much. His accuracy off the tee scares me, and turns out I was right. Should have just trusted it.
Yeah, should have trusted got a little bit more last week. Before we get into the Zurich Classic, which I think I said last week, I'll be honest, probably my least favorite event to bet on of the entire PGA Tour schedule. It gets a little tricky because it's the only partnered event. If you don't know, it's teams of two. But with that being said, I will still have some bets placed, obviously. So we'll get to those in a moment. But other golf news, I'm sure you saw this, Cody, is the match V5, V6? What version of the match is this?
I think it's six.
I think it's six. It's the first one without, obviously, Phil Mickelson's not going to be in it. I think it's the first one without him. Tom Brady against Aaron Rodgers against Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. The old guys. It's an all NFL match. The old quarterbacks against the young quarterbacks. Any thoughts on that? Have you seen any odds out? I haven't seen any odds out yet. I would assume Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers are favored. I don't know that for sure, though. Any thoughts on the match V6, we're saying?
I haven't seen any odds either. I also lean towards the old guys a little bit, but I mean that also depends on what odds we're getting, because
Right.
I've heard rumblings from, around social media and other things that Josh Allen is not to be messed with on the golf course and that he can hit it a mile. So, I'll have to do some more research into NFL players and their golfing games before I make any
I
concrete assessments.
I have done terrible betting on these match events. I remember the one with Charles Barkley. They kind of screwed me because they didn't tell us that Charles Barkley was going to tee up like way further on the tees than everyone else until like it started, and I placed a very large bet on who was it? Steph Curry and I
It
forget
was
who he's paired up with.
Peyton Manning, wasn't it?
Yes, I think it was Steph Curry and Peyton Manning. I think against Charles Barkley and Phil Mickelson. So because Charles Barkley teed up so far ahead of everyone, Phil just got him to use like a 7-iron off the tee, just put it in the fairway, and then Phil went to work from there. So I feel like I got screwed in that one, but I've lost some decent money on these charity events. So not sure if I'm going to bet on the match V6, but I'm sure I'll probably at least place a little sprinkle when that comes up, which I think is start of June, I think, is it? So it's
June
coming up
1st,
here.
I think, actually.
Yeah. So pretty short notice, only about a month and a half away. All right, let's get into our picks for the Zurich Classic. I think we've covered everything leading into that. Let's have a better week this week. We are going to start, obviously, with miscut, top 20, top 10, top 5, win. The odds, obviously, for these, for top 20s or top 20 and top 10s are going to be a little bit shorter because there's only 80 pairings, I think it is, compared to a normal event that would have like over like 150 golfers in it. So the odds are going to be a little bit shorter, but there are some pretty decent bets here. And then at the end of the show, we're going to end with a new segment that I will introduce when we get to it. So let's start with missed cut here. Cody, start us off.
So to miss the cut, I'm trusting my gut this week, and I'm going with a bold call. I'm saying Scotty Scheffler and Ryan Palmer missed the cut. Ryan Palmer is actually kind of a fun little quirk about this event. It seems like he's always paired with like a top player in the world whenever he comes here. Like he just like ends up somehow talking one of these guys in there. Like this one's obvious because it's a Texas connection. But the thing is Palmer's recent form has not been particularly good, especially as good as it has been in previous years when he's actually been playing pretty well. He's losing 0.29 strokes total per round over his last 50 rounds. He's just not been playing particularly well, especially with the putter. He's been losing a lot of strokes with the putter. And I know Scheffler's been on a crazy heater, but one of the things about Scheffler, and we even saw it at the Masters, is he can get himself in some bad spots. And when you're playing in a team event, that puts your partner in a position where he may not be comfortable, as Scheffler would be comfortable if he was hitting the next shot. And so, and then on top of that, I know Scheffler's been on this crazy run and he's coming off his Masters win and winning the, WGC match play. But after all that, are we sure he cares about the Zurich Classic? Are we really sure that he cares about the Zurich Classic? Because I'm not. I would bet that he's just there because Ryan Palmer asked him to be. So I'm going with the bold call and taking one of the favorites to miss the cut.
Yeah, taking the number one golfer in the world to miss the cut is certainly a bold call. I don't hate it. We'll see, man. I always like bold calls. I don't think I'm gonna tail you on that one, but I respect a bold call. And I will say, I should have said this earlier for people who don't know the format of this, because yes, it is partnered. Thursday and Saturday is best ball, which means both golfers are playing their own balls. And then you take the better of the two scores between the two teammates each hole. And then Friday and Sunday are alternate shots. So obviously alternate shots a little bit trickier. One golfer tees off all the odd numbered holes. One golfer tees off all the even numbered holes, and then it's just alternate shot until the ball's in the hole. So interesting format here. For my miss the cut, I'm going to go with the South African partnership of Christian Bezuidenhout and Charles Schwartzel. Number one reason why I made this pick, because I just like saying Bezuidenhout on almost every single show that we do. But these are two guys who, in events where like you don't need to necessarily score and you can just get by with good scrambling and getting pars, that's especially Bezuidenhout. That's when he's going to do well. But my strategy for this event is basically bet on guys who can score, guys who can get birdies, because especially in the two best ball rounds, a bogey's most likely not going to hurt you because you assume at least one of the two partners are going to at least get par. Maybe that's an assumption you shouldn't make, but you have to score in this event, especially with best ball. So I'm going to be backing guys who have a high birdie or better percentage, and these two guys rank 192nd and 196th. And Charles Schwartzel, we all know this, outside of the T10 at the Masters a couple weeks ago, has been terrible all season. So I feel comfortable betting against him. And then Bezuidenhout, like I said, he's just not a guy who's going to get a lot of birdies. So for my miss the cut pick, the South Africans, Bezuidenhout, Schwartzel.
No, I totally agree with everything you just said. I mean, outside of the Masters, Schwartzel's been awful. I saw someone tweet like during the Masters, they were like, just a reminder that recent form matters so much, and it was like 7 straight missed cuts going into the Masters. Yeah. But yeah, I'm all in on what you're saying about these two, because if you can't score in the best ball format, then you're going to be in real trouble.
Question for you before we dive into the top 20s, top 10, top 5 and wins here. Cody, do you have a different betting strategy? I said that I kind of, for this event, I value heavily birdie or better percentage. Do you change up your betting strategy at all for this partnered event?
So I do look at birdie or, birdie percentage and stuff like that. But also I always default to ball striking, and especially if you have two good ball strikers on a team. But then also I think because, and it kind of goes back to what you're saying about being one of your least favorite events to bet on, is I also lower my unit size for a team event like this, just because, you're adding more volatility when you're trusting two players as opposed to just one. And I at least I believe. And so I lower my unit size a little bit when I'm betting on this tournament.
It's also tough because we've only seen 4 editions of this, because they started in 2017 when they changed to the partnered event. Got canceled in 2020. So we've only seen 4 tournaments, and there hasn't even been a trend for like what odds the winners are. Each year, the winner has become shorter odds. It's like 100 to 1, 40 to 1, 16 to 1, 12 to 1. So it's not even like, do we target guys near the top of the odds board? Do we take long shots? We don't know, because we've seen a winner from kind of every section of the odds board. So it's tricky. I don't hate that advice of lowering your unit size for this one. But let's get into our actual picks here outside of the missed cut, starting with top 20. What's your pick to finish in the top 20?
So for top 20, I'm going with the Canadian Adams. That's Adam Hadwin and Adam Svensson. Like I said, I always default to ball striking when it comes to something like this, or to basically any tournament. I default to ball striking, and these two are two of the more underrated ball strikers on the PGA Tour, at least in my opinion. Just last week, Hadwin gained 3.48 strokes on approach, and Svensson was actually better with 5.14. Now, where they struggled was they were both basically average off the tee, and both can get a little up and down when it comes to their short game. But in terms of ball striking, they're both incredibly good players there in that area. And so that leads me to favor them a little bit. And like you said, we're talking about an 80-team field. They just need to finish in the top 4th. And when you have two ball strikers who are hitting the ball at this level, I think a top 20 bet for them is pretty safe, like a pretty low floor. And I saw consensus odds around like plus 170. And, for these two to get those kinds of odds with the way they're hitting the ball, if they can just be average with the putter or average off the tee, I really like those odds.
You like Adam Svensson. I've seen you back him a few times here.
I do. I just think that he hits the ball too well to not pop every now and then and make
Right.
some noise and like I understand that the putter is a liability, but there are a lot of guys where the putter is a liability. But that is the most volatile part of a player's golf game is, you can have the best putter in the world and sometimes they go on the greens and they just don't have it. You can have the worst putter in the world and sometimes they go on the greens and they have it. Like it's just a very volatile part of the game. So I don't rely too heavily on like the putting numbers and stuff like that. And I think Svensson's ball striking outweighs that for me. And especially for a top 20 play, like, I'll pick him as a long shot to win every now and then because I think he has that upside because of how good he is with his irons and his approach game.
Yeah.
But, in a top 20 play, when he's paired with another ball striker and someone, who with them both coming up through Canada, like, they probably have some sort of relationship with one another. So, like there's good feels and good vibes around there. So I like that a lot.
I'm never going to argue against a Canadian pick, so I like that quite a bit. My top 20 is a pairing where if you want a couple of guys who have chemistry, you got to go with these guys, Kevin Kisner and Scott Brown. These guys already have finished twice in the top 5 twice. They had a runner-up finish in the first time the partnered event happened, which is back in 2017. Now, I'm only taking them top 20 because I say Scott Brown, you're probably saying, who's that? Because he's like not really on the PGA Tour. He's kind of up and down. Kisner brings them to this event every year. But like I said, 2 top 5 finishes in the 4 years that they've competed together. They obviously have chemistry. They're both Georgia guys. So this is strictly a chemistry pick. I'm not going to get any more aggressive than top 20. But yeah, let's hope for the best. Kisner has, clearly played well here in the past. So, and Scott Brown brings his best when Kisner's partnered with him. So top 20, Kevin Kisner, Scott Brown. I don't have much more to say than that because statistically, probably not a good bet, but I'll back it for chemistry's sake.
Yeah, I mean, they have history here with good chemistry, so it's hard to. And I mean, we're on another Pete Dye course at TPC Louisiana, and
Yep.
Kisner, typically plays well because it doesn't necessarily demand a ton of distance there. So I like that pick for a top 20.
Good point. Good point about Pete Dye. All right, go ahead. Hit us with top 10.
So top 10, I'm going Taylor Gooch and Max Homa. I would call this team underrated. I feel like these two guys, neither of these guys get the credit that they deserve, especially like in recent form. I mean, they both have really good all-around games, I believe, but their ball striking is also really impressive. Both are gaining more than a half a stroke tee to green per round over the last 48 rounds, which is something you love to see. They're getting the ball in scoring position, which is what you need in this format, a team format. I also like what I saw from both of them when we saw them at the Masters. Homa faded on the weekend, but he finally made the cut, which is what he had been talking about the entire week. So, he's feeling good. He made the cut at the Masters. And then Gooch quietly was T14 at the Masters in his debut, which I had him as a little bit of a sleeper when we were talking about predictions or when I wrote my predictions for FanSided. And, I just think that the way he's striking the ball this year is just going way too under the radar. And I think when you pair these two together, they're both going to put themselves in really good positions to score, and both are really good scorers. And, I saw odds around plus 180, plus 200 for them to finish in the top 10. And I think that's just honestly, I feel like that's mispriced considering how well both of them have played this year.
I like your name for them. Team underrated. I agree with that quite a bit. Fantastic, especially Gooch, fantastic ball striker. So I like that pick. No disagreements for me so far, Cody. I'm sure I need to find at least one pick of yours that I disagree with. So we'll see if it comes in the top 5 or pick to win. My pick to finish in the top 10, I'm getting back on the Tyrrell Hatton train. I'm begging for his forgiveness after I bet on him to miss the cut last week. I'm going with him and Danny Willett to finish in the top 10. Hatton 27th on tour and birdie percentage. He still wasn't great off the tee last week at RBC Heritage, but he did enough in the other areas that I can kind of forgive his performance at the Masters on the weekend. And Danny Willett has quietly been playing some pretty decent golf as of late. He was in contention there for a little bit at the Masters. He made the cut last week. He didn't have a great finish. I forget what it was. I think it was like 36th or something. But I think in an event where there are a lot of pairings that are a little bit lopsided, where you have one really good golfer and then one bad golfer, like my top 20 pick with Kevin Kisner and Scott Brown, this is a team that I think like both guys are just good golfers. Like one of them is not going to really cost the other guy that much. So I'll take these two guys top 10. I did not find any consensus odds. I've been struggling to find Zurich Classic odds today. So I don't know if you have them in front of you, but yeah, that's my pick for top 10. Danny Willett and Tyrrell Hatton, a couple of Englishmen.
I don't have the odds in front of me, but I feel like they're probably around. Like that has the feeling of being around, or possibly a little bit better than Gooch and Homa. So I would
Yeah.
assume somewhere in that plus 200 range. One thing I really like about that pick is, especially for this format, is both of them can get extremely hot with the putter, like extremely hot
Yes.
with the putter. So if they're just rolling in the rock from ungodly angles and stuff like that, that could really play into their favor in the team format.
Great point. Yeah. Hatton was first in putting heading into the Masters. Obviously stumbled a big time at in that department at the Masters, but then kind of got back on the horse there at the RBC Heritage. So yeah, top 10, little English pairing there. So let's move on. We're getting down to the nitty gritty here. Give us your top 5 pick.
So I'm going with Team Chile for my top 5 pick with Joaquin Niemann and Mito Pereira.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, everyone is talking about Victor Hovland and Colin Morikawa being paired together, about how, just ball strikers paradise. Well, this is like the B plus version of that, in my opinion. Mito Pereira has been quietly just absolutely crushing it when it comes to his ball striking. He's gaining 1.25 strokes per round tee to green right now. His putting has been a little suspect. That's why he finished T26 last week and not higher, considering he was striking the ball so well. And then Neiman finished T12 last week because he's also an incredible ball striker and has, just a ton of game. He has distance, but one of the things that's so underrated about Neiman is his ability to change his ball flight. Whatever shots demanded, he just has everything in the bag, and it's so impressive to watch. And so I think when you pair these two ball strikers together, I think you're really going to have someone or a team that's just in great position the entire time. And so if Pereira's putter is just average, or Neiman gets hot with the putter, which we've seen him do at the Genesis and other places, I think they're going to score really, really well. And I saw consensus odds around like plus 500 for them to be in the top 5. And I think that, there are some great teams in here in this field, but there's also a big drop off in terms of like star power in terms of those teams. And so I think to get plus 500 for this pairing is really tremendous value.
Yeah, I like that bet quite a bit. That's been a popular one I've seen. The people are backing on Twitter are these two Chileans. So 22-1 to win. Also, I mean, I know you just have them top 5, but pretty decent value on them to win as well.
Absolutely.
All right, I'll get to my top 5 here. This is a guy who is starting to become a little darling of green on the greens here. That's Harold Varner. And he is paired up with Bubba Watson this week. So Harold Varner, like we've talked about, he's sneakily having a very good season on the PGA Tour. T3 last week, and even more importantly, 11th in birdie or better percentage. And now he's paired up with Bubba Watson, Bubba Watson is a guy who, when he's playing on his courses, you got to bet on him. The big one is obviously the Travelers. He's won it, like 3 or 4 times already. He has also done very well at TPC Louisiana. He won the event back in 2011. That was back when it was still just a single person, just a normal event. And he hasn't finished worse than 34th since then. And he was 8th last year when he was partnered with Scotty Scheffler. Now, obviously, Harold Varner is no Scotty Scheffler, but still, Bubba Watson does very well at TPC Louisiana. Harold Varner gets birdies. He's been hot. He's been in good form. So I like those two guys to finish in the top 5. So you weren't willing to get aggressive with Varner last week. I'm putting my faith in him, getting aggressive with him this week.
No, I like this pairing for the team format, especially in the best. Like alternate shot does worry me a little bit with these two because they can get a little squirrely with the driver. But in best ball format, the way these guys are aggressive and the way they can score, they can put up a really low number to where even if they have an average alternate shot round, they could still be in the mix.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I like that pick quite a bit. Let's hear your pick to win. It is not to spoil it, but I tweeted it out today that it might be an auto bet. It's probably not going to surprise too many people. One of us, we're going to take this team, so hit us with it.
I mean, it was obviously going to be me as the president of the Victor Hovland fan club. Victor Hovland and Colin Morikawa to win. I mean, they're the favorites to win this event, and they should be. I mean, so as a tandem, they are losing 0.43 strokes around the green, and they are still tied for the best strokes gained tee to green per pairing over the last 50 rounds. They're tied with Scheffler and Palmer with, as I mentioned earlier, with them missing the cut. Scheffler's doing a lot of the heavy lifting there. These two guys are both just striking the absolute heck out of the ball and putting themselves in great position. One thing I can't get out of my head is on the last day of the Ryder Cup, they were in a head-to-head singles match, and they shot a best ball 59. These two guys are absolutely disgusting when it comes to striking the ball. They're all like Hovland can hit it far off the tee, but they're both extremely accurate with the driver. They're two of the best iron players in the game, like worldwide. They're two top 5 ranked players in the world. And if they can just have a decent putting week for both of them, then I don't see how they would not be in contention to win this event. Like, they're just that good, and putting them together just feels almost unfair.
Yeah, so full disclosure, I will be betting on them to win it as well. I didn't want to make them my pick because I didn't just want to repeat the exact same things that you said, because you're right. I mean, talented-wise and skill-wise, this is, in my opinion, easily the best team. So they're co-favorites. They're at 8-1 to win. They're co-favorites with Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele. I would not do that. I was on Cantlay and Schauffele last year, and they performed terrible at this event, and Schauffele missed the cut at the Masters. So I'm still mad at Xander for that. I'm not over that. So I'm surprised that Hovland and Morikawa aren't like runaway favorites in this event. And then Leishman and Cameron Smith are third on the odds list. And I think the book's overvaluing that team and the Xander Cantlay team is actually giving us decent odds now on Hovland and Morikawa, because Smith just missed a cut. Mark Leishman has been having a bad year. Even though Smith has won this event twice, I'm staying away from his team as well. So it's just one of those bets that, like, if you don't bet it and then they win by like 5 strokes, you're going to feel like an idiot. Because if these guys like play as good as they can, like they might run away with this. It's just not going to be fair.
Exactly. I mean, it's one of those things, like, they may not win it, but I'm looking at the board, I can't not take them. Like, they're too talented, and their games are just so, like, I mean, they're almost mirror images of each other in terms, like, Morikawa's a little bit better around the green than Hovland, whereas Hovland's probably a little bit better putter than Morikawa,
Yep.
but their games are just so well-rounded overall, and they have the ability to score that it's just hard not to have, an investment in them.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I will be betting on them, but that is not my official pick to win. My official pick to win is Sam Burns and Billy Horschel. 11-1 at WinBet. WinBet just released the odds there. I was just checking them out. I was talking about birdie percentage. They rank 7th and 21st in birdie percentage on the PGA Tour so far. Horschel has already won this event. He won it back in 2018 when he was paired with Scott Piercy, I believe it was. And then he finished 13th in 2019. And then him and Burns were paired up for this event last year, and they finished 4th. So you got 2 guys who score a lot of birdies, 2 guys who've been paired up together and finished 4th place. I think they complement each other's games well. I think they both can certainly score. So Billy Horschel, Sam Burns at 11-1 at WinBet for them to win. Pretty decent value. Like I said, they're kind of the one step below the top 3 teams, but course history, guys who can score, that's going to be my official pick to win for the show.
No, I mean, I can't argue with any of your reasoning. I have a hang up about betting on Billy Horschel. He's just one of those players that I never have a feel for. Like, I look at him on the odds board and I'm like, oh, Billy Ho could play well here. And then I look at his course history and he's been awful or something.
Right.
Or then he'll be like in bad form coming into a place where he has played well. I'm like, well, isn't bad. He is just one of those people who I never, place any bets on because I just don't have a feel for him.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Interesting guy to watch golf too. Very interesting guy. He's one of those guys that, like, he's in the Tyrrell Hatton group where it's like, if I could just watch a feed, I just want a group of like Tyrrell Hatton and Billy Horschel and someone else and just have a feed of those guys golf.
Yeah, he's he gives me American Psycho vibes on the golf course a little bit.
And he kind of looks like him too.
Right.
Like Almost identical. It's creepy. All right, we're going to finish up with a new segment called Closest to the Win. Obviously, a little play on words with close to the pin here. How this is going to work, Cody, we're going to have a little competition with each other, weekly competition from here until the end of the PGA Tour season. The last time we do it will be for the Tour Championship. And I didn't talk about this earlier, but let's make a little bet. Loser pays for the winner's round at a course.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Obviously, we're not going to go to like a super fancy course and make you pay $500 for a round within reason, maybe a nice, cheaper public course. But let's put a little something on the line here. So how this is going to work is we are both going to pick a golfer with at least 150 to 1 odds to win. So a completely dark horse, long shot, off the board guy. And whoever finishes higher up in the leaderboard will get the point for that week. So a couple of rules. Number one, if both of our picks miss the cut, there's just no points awarded that week. So you have one of the teams or one of the golfers has to at least make the cut. And then obviously for this week, we're picking teams, not just players. So teams for this week. And the other thing is it's a one and done. We're basically going to do one and done. So if you pick a golfer 1 week, you can't pick him again for the rest of the season. So closest to the win, a guy with at least 150 to 1 odds to win. Whoever finishes higher up in the leaderboard or closer to the win gets the point for that week. Little fun way to close out the show, a little competition for the rest of the season with a round of golf on the line. It'd be nice if we could golf together and pay for the round, but we're on opposite sides of the country. So probably not going to happen. If I find myself in your area, if you find myself over on the East Coast, maybe we can, but at the very least, we'll pay for the other person's round, and that'll be kind of what's on the line. Sound good?
Sounds great. Let's do it.
All right. I completely put you on the spot there with that bet, so let's do it. Now you got to win. All right, so let's hear. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, I was just saying, I know, right?
Yeah. All right, so let's start. Who is your pick for the first round of closest to the win for the Zurich Classic?
So I'm going with my guys, Tom Hoge and Paul Barjon. Full disclosure, the reason that their odds are so low is because neither is in particularly good form right now. But we have seen Hoge pop a few times this year, and he won not too long ago. And Barjon has popped up at times. I think he was top 10 at the American Express. So I know that their games are there, like they have the game to at least, show up on a leaderboard. And so I'm banking on them. These two guys, when they do play well, they're based on ball striking. And as I've said before, I fall back on ball strikers. So I'm just hoping that they have a good ball striking week and, finish better than your team.
I like these picks are going to way off the board. So there's your pick. My pick I had locked in earlier today, but we are going to go by official WinBet odds. WinBet just released their odds about 15 minutes before we went live, and the pairing I had were at 100 to 1, whereas earlier at other books I saw them at 150 to 1. So I had to pull a last-second audible. You might have seen me looking at my screen while you were talking earlier. That was me trying to get a different pick for closer to the win. I do actually kind of like my pick, though. I will say, full disclosure, my pick was going to be Emiliano Grillo and Rafael Cabrera Bello. Unfortunately, WinBet has them at 100 to 1, so they're ineligible for closest to the win. Needs to be at least 150 to 1 odds. So I changed it up. My pick for closest to the win week 1, Alex Smalley and Hayden Buckley, listed at 150 to 1 to win this week. Two half-decent ball strikers. And like I said, we're not going to be picking the best golfers in the world if they're 150 to 1 or longer. But Hayden Buckley, 13th on tour heading into this event and strokes gained off the tee. Alex Smalley, 51st. So at the very least, these are going to be good drivers, which is going to help when it comes to alternate shots. So my first pick for closest to the win, Alex Smalley, Hayden Buckley, season-long competition between myself and you, Cody, with a round of golf on the line between now and the Tour Championship.
Worst of luck to you.
Yeah. All right, so there's the show for this week's Zurich Classic. What event is it next week? I think it's the Mexico Championship, which I think used to be a WGC event. I think it's not this year, though.
Yeah, they revamped the WGC schedule and with the partnership with the DP World Tour. So they revamped it and said this isn't a WGC anymore, unfortunately. But I've always enjoyed the tournament down in Mexico because it's sneaky, because it's at high elevation. So you get people just absolutely bombing it.
That's right. Yeah. So looking forward to that, to the Mexico Championship. But this week we got the Zurich Classic, the only team event on tour. Best luck with your bets. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Good luck with your bets. We'll talk to you all next week.